I wrote this not just to have a book with my name on it. This wasn't born out of a self obsessed wish of being an author or to make a shiny addition to my business card. I wanted this to be my manual of sorts, documenting all the fundamentals I learned from constant experiments, the best practices validated by millions of views over the years. There are many books on social media, content, and marketing, and I didn't want this to be another brain fart about theories or tips curated from the internet. I wanted this to be a practical guide to viral content marketing, a reference I can look back on when I'm 70 and losing memory, wondering what the impact I had in this life and how many people I managed to empower. This is for the younger me, millions of whom are traveling in trains, working hard, and trying to understand how to build their careers and disrupt traditional ideas with kick ass creativity. This is for the every marketing manager who thinks they need to be more creative, or who thinks only creative agencies have that holy power vested in them. This is for every student who wants to stand out, and for every chief marketing officer who wants to lead marketing teams and not have to depend on agencies to get the work done. This is for everyone who wants to build in house capability and wow those who think they are the gatekeepers of creativity or marketing. There you go.
Hello and welcome all to yet another episode of the Banyan Tree. This is a series that Sahil and I started to quench our thirst for in order to know the books beyond the pages. And when you talk about books, we are specifically referring to leadership and business books or non-fiction books here in this particular series. And today we have a book, or rather an author that who would need no introduction. I would rather have Sahil to introduce him.
For people in corporate marketing teams, we often get asked by our managers to create viral videos, as if viral is a category in its own right, which often leaves people like us wondering how to make one, right? And it is this very burning question that our book for today, Fast, Cheap, and Viral: How to Make Great Content on a Shoestring Budget, answers. And to introduce the author, he is a content creator himself at heart, winning the Content Marketeer Award and recently getting featured in Forbes. Well, he is quite a viral personality within himself, and though it's a pandemic time, I would like to choose my words carefully by calling him viral, not the viral you associate with Corona. But yes, thank you so much, Aashish, for supporting this interview and for being on a call with us. There are a lot of questions that we have, not just this one, with regards to your book and with regards to your experiences. Hope you will enjoy this. We'll definitely.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me here. And I'm so glad that my book came out last year, 2019. Because agar ye book 2020 mein aati, something which is called Fast, Cheap, and Viral.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I would just add 2 points in Ashish's introduction. Number one, he is someone who perhaps every doctor would like to hate because he believes in virality and he likes to spread virality. And number two, he is someone who is the dream of every college student. He's a college dropout, by the way. And people like him who make the dropout, sound so cool. I have the book with me. We have read the book. It's a wonderful book. Multiple chapters, it has got 3 parts. Part 2 is the one where he shares secrets. I'll share the details of the book, the Amazon and the Flipkart link in the description. Do definitely go out and check this out. Sahil, over to you for the very first question.
Yeah, so right off the bat, Aashish, to actually picking up the question from the introduction itself, we do get asked by senior managers, right, ki chalo, let's create viral videos, apart from other videos that they want us to make. So how do you make viral videos? What's the secret recipe? What goes behind creating a viral video?
एक तो viral is such an abused word in the industry because सबको viral चाहिए. As if, like I go to events and people walk up to me कि sir एक viral video बनाना है. I'm like, ये लो Comi Flam, सुबह तक viral हो जाएगा. Right? Because the thing is, like, why a lot of people, CMOs, CEOs, founders are, obsessed with the word viral is because, deep down, even if you run a TV campaign, you want people to talk about it organically. You want your चाचा जी to call you कि हमने आपके ad देखी बहुत अच्छी लगी WhatsApp group में चल रही है, right? Because that organic success of your ads, your content, your marketing, that's what you seek deep down, right? So the operating word for viral for me is share worthy. So if whatever content you're creating, whatever videos you're creating, if it's worthy of sharing, then it goes beyond your, your community, your company, and people start organically sharing. And everybody who watches that becomes an evangelist or tiny influencer of sort. Agar, for example, my chacha ji shares that video in their WhatsApp groups, then he's a tiny influencer in that family, right? And that's what the power of share worthy video. I like, I'm attached to the word viral, which is very dangerous because जनता को लगता है कि मतलब ये रहा एक च्यवनप्राश. But viral का focus to me is share worthy. And it's not just about videos. It's about content. It's about your products, right? If, for example, you create a great product with great UI, it will be worthy of sharing only, and it attract a lot of customer love if it's compels people to share with their friends and family, right? So why do a lot of people ask? Because वो obsession, वो एक inertia, एक momentum चला आ रहा है कि मतलब दो product video, दो education video और दो viral video as if it's in our hands. But I believe that everything we create, everything where we have to put our mind to, should be worthy of sharing. Many times we create videos for in-house consumption. For example, there's a celebration in the office, or if somebody is joining or somebody is leaving, or the annual day where everybody comes together. Those videos should be worthy of sharing by everybody who watches it. Because if your video is not worth the time of the people who are watching, right, then किसके लिए बना रहे हो? 2.5 लाइक का क्या करोगे? Right? We need engagement at the end of it. And that's why a lot of people are obsessed with the word viral, because deep down they want people to organically engage with their content, engage with their videos. But since it's stuck in a very output driven terminology, that viral video, like when somebody asks me that ek video viral karna hai, I just go blank, because we don't make a video viral. Incremental user sharing makes the video or content viral. So the obsession has to be about why will it matter to the user, the audience, to take an action. Because video देखना एक चीज है, उस पे like करना दूसरी चीज है, उसको friends को tag करना, share करना और हमें kidney देना, that's a tall order. Right? So we expect a lot of stuff from our users, and why would they do anything for us? Right? Why would anyone do anything for you? So you have to truly create an impact with that tiny 2-minute video and get that shared, get that engagement, and it's meaningful. It's not like clickbaity. Ki matlab, see this before you die.
No, I can imagine, a startup founder walks up to you for consulting and they ask you ki, Aashish, let's create a viral video for our brand.
हाँ, उसको मतलब वो एक डॉक्टर के पास जाते हैं ना, तो अभी दवाई दो, मैं सुबह तक ठीक होना मुझे.
I can imagine the response that they'll be getting now whenever they reach you for consultation.
But Aashish, once you make a good content, a share-worthy content, and it sort of people start sharing it, how do you know? So, at life, in real life, there's a point when you know that you have arrived, you have gained sort of moksha. So how do you know that your content has become viral? So is there a specific number, say 1.5K shares?
Sure.
And it has gone back.
There are two ways to answer this. One is shared by measuring it, right? For example, we have benchmarks of, say, Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. What is the threshold? Or benchmarks we had to come up on our own, right? That ye isko cross hua, engagement cross hua, so then people are organically sharing it. But the other thing is purely from experience. It's not measuring, right? Purely from experience of the last couple of years about having a lot of videos which went viral is, ek to people start stealing your content, right? People figure out illegal ways to download the video, and we get the video from WhatsApp after 2 days. somebody shared, right? Then the magic which we run after all the time is when your engagement numbers, they don't increase, they accelerate. It's like a snowball effect, right? We made a video, I remember, uske 200 shares the, right? 1 बजे तो हमने 200 शेयर थे, फिर 1000 शेयर हुए 3 बजे तक, एंड हमने चाय समोसा पार्टी करी ऑफिस में, ग्रेट 1000 शेयर. 6 बजे तक 6500 शेयर थे उस पे. Chak, 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 chak. And that's when you go crazy, the whole thing goes crazy, because then एक का चार का आठ, and it multiplies. It's no longer addition, right? And that snowball effect is something you have to experience it, right? So one half of your the answer to the question is, of course, benchmarks, wo sab hai, right? For example, if it crosses a certain threshold. But the second, purely for experience, is when you release something and uske baad you see that snowball effect happening. People, a lot of people start tagging. 6 घंटे बाद उसका एक illegally downloaded version किसी और brand का logo लग के WhatsApp पे किसी को मिला. मतलब there's so much happens, right? So yeah, I look at that in two ways.
But here's the thing, Aashish, right? When you're creating viral content, right, and the idea is for as many people to see it. Now, while reading your book and while thinking of the concept of viral videos, I'm a marketing graduate, right? So is Sauradeep. And one thing that we are thinking of in theory is the concept of segmentation, target and positioning. Right?
Okay.
Positioning we have covered, and we'll come to that later. But you don't talk about a target market at all in your book. Right? You are indeed restricting yourself to a target market, then probably you're not getting as much reach as one would like. Right? Now, chances are that your content is being extremely viral in areas from where you're not getting any business at all whatsoever. Right? Now, how do you? I mean, is that a thought that comes naturally when you are thinking of video creation, or do you absolutely disregard it? How do you even explain targeting for content?
I dropped out of college, so I'm glad I didn't do. I mean, no offense to you guys, but I did not do any MBA, so I had nothing to fucking unlearn. Right. So there was no playbook. I remember walking into an airport, hunting for a book on marketing and content. I could not find even a single book from India about Indian experience about content and marketing, and that's the book I wrote, which I wanted to read. Now, to ask your question, answer your question about segmentation, किस type का audience, if you just apply common sense, ये हमारी audience है as a whole, right? The segmentation, before segmentation comes obsession about do we truly understand them or not? Because हम slice and dice साला इतना करते लेते हैं, हम ये भूल जाते हैं कि हमने उस audience के pain points क्या हैं, उसके छोटे छोटे micro moments क्या हैं, right? That saying that the trees and the forest, right? So segmentation वो सब MBAs करते हैं, कम करना जब job मिलेगी, all the best to you. But what I'm saying is उसके बाद भी, right? I mean, that doesn't guarantee the success of your video, because see, in travel, for example, everybody travels, right? Of course, then if it's say a food tech company, everybody eats. If it's a bank, personal finance, a lot of people are connected to that. So overall, कि यार हमारी audience इस direction में है, right? You know the direction of the audience, because the whole thing in creating content is not to look at your audience, slice and dice, इनको देखो ध्यान से. No, it's about fucking looking in the same direction as them. ये लोग जो travel करते हैं, ये किस direction में देखते हैं? Let's look in the same direction. That's why the content which we create is not about the brand. It's about the people who consume the brand, right? It's not about travel. It's not about travel log banao, ye dekho, yahan Goa ke beaches. It's not about travel. It's about people who travel. It's not about food, but people who love eating. It's not about banking or personal finance, but people who struggle with personal finance. And when you look at the people directly, right, and understand and obsess about their inke pain point kya hai, let's walk in their shoes, right? That's when the magic happens. Uske baad, when we start connecting the dots in the brainstorming, right, then uske baad slice and dice, wo sab ho jata hai. That's not a big deal, right? Because if we create a video, like we created a rap song 2 years back, which was it was not targeted. Like, I hate these war references in marketing. Target market. I mean, these are the people we have to love. If you genuinely love your audience, right, then they will love you back 10 times over, and that's the space we want to be in, right? Marketing does not have to be cold-blooded, right? And सारे result आ जाते हैं. I mean, the thing is, results will come when you focus on the right direction. Because अगर आप दिल्ली से बॉम्बे जा रहे हो और आपकी रेलवे लाइन 1 डिग्री भी अलग डायरेक्शन में है, you will reach Calcutta. So the direction is super important, not how fancy your fucking train is. You know what I'm saying? मैंने तुम्हें 10 नंबर का आंसर दिया है 1 नंबर के क्वेश्चन के लिए, सो
नहीं, so हम 10 नंबर के आंसर्स ही सीख कर रहे हैं for all the questions that we ask, and Sauradeep, so basically Sauradeep and I, we do an exercise where we are trying to give an order to our questions, but oftentimes when we talk to authors, we realize that there is there is a follow up on what you say, and
बट जो भी मैं कह रहा हूँ, कल कॉलेज छोड़ मत देना, मतलब स्टिक टू योर डिग्रीज.
sir, quick introduction. Both of us are graduates.
अच्छा,
Both of us are
फिर ठीक है.
yes. But you do mention कि results आ जाते हैं, ठीक है, and that's where I got very intrigued that you can definitely as a content creator you would want to see how often it is getting shared, who is sharing it, what's the engagement that you have. But when I was interning, right, with a consumer company and we were working on certain initiatives, the question that would come immediately from the seniors is, paisa kahan pe? Right? Where are you getting the revenue from? How is it affecting the top line? Right? And are you able to make direct impact of that?
ये वो लोग हैं जो एक टीवी एड पे 10 करोड़ रुपए खर्च देते हैं, उसको साला मेजर नहीं करते, डिजिटल पे 50,000 रुपए खर्चते हैं और बोलते हैं इसका रिटर्न क्या आ रहा है. राइट? 10 करोड़ रुपए खर्च देंगे टीवी पे, बट बिकॉज 10 करोड़ रुपए खर्चे तो रिजल्ट तो अच्छे आए होंगे, बिकॉज इतने पैसे जो खर्च दिए. राइट? सो यार एक बात बताओ, फॉर अ ब्रांड, फॉर अ कंपनी, राइट, लाइक before any revenue will come, before any customer buys your product, right, that person needs to be on your side, that person needs your brand needs to be relevant in their life, right? For example, किसी ने कंटेंट देखा, एड देखी, कुछ भी देखा, न्यूज़पेपर में सारा इश्तिहार देखा, उसके बाद लाइक किया, कमेंट किया, एंगेज किया, उसके बाद जाके बाय किया ना, राइट? दैट जर्नी. फॉर एग्जांपल, दीस पीपल हु आस्क इससे रेवेन्यू कितना है, वो ब्रांडिंग में कितने पैसे उड़ा रहे हैं जिसकी कोई नोबडी इज मेजरिंग दैट, राइट? First, the whole purpose of marketing and branding today is to be relevant in the lives of your user. Like for example, Ixigo is not Domino's कि मैंने ad देखी मेरे को भूख लगने लग गई, right? मैं एक content देख के flight book नहीं कर लेता, but जब flight book करनी है, that brand, if it's relevant in your life, if you're engaged, if you're taking part in conversations with that content, then you are the most relevant in the mind of your audience. राइट? सो जब तक रेलेवेंस नहीं होगी, रेवेन्यू तो दूर की बात है, राइट? बिकॉज रेवेन्यू के लिए ऑफ कोर्स लाइक इट्स अ लाइक यू क्रिएट कंटेंट, यू क्रिएट एंगेजमेंट, यू रेलेवेंट इन देयर लाइफ, एंड व्हेन कंटेंट का ना जो द कन्वर्जन, द एंड गेम ऑफ कंटेंट इज नॉट फकिंग रेवेन्यू, इट्स एंगेजमेंट. आपका ब्रांड किसी की लाइफ में मैटर किया उस टाइम के लिए, राइट? दैट्स व्हाट मैटर्स, राइट? The end game or conversions for ads, short form ads, I'm not saying long form ads, short form ads is that click through rate, कितने conversion हुए, कितने leads आए, कितने product बिके, right? But thing is, वहां तक आने से पहले you need to be relevant in the life of your audience, and that comes from content, that comes from branding and marketing activities, right? So go for it. 10 करोड़ रुपए हैं तो उड़ा दो, and then come read the book.
नहीं, ये you have told this to us in a very candid manner. I'm sure I can't take this to my manager. नहीं है ये कैसे बोल दिया calculate करने के लिए. But I guess that makes sense. There has to be a very clear line between what you are doing as a branding activity and what you are doing as a revenue generating activity. Makes sense, right? And now comes this question, right, which we were just discussing before the call also, that people claim, reports claim, you claim that the attention span of an average human is 6 to 8 seconds. Some people take it as far as 10 seconds as well. And yet we find ourselves watching 3-hour long movies, binge watching 10 hours a day and reading books and whatnot, right? And at that time, it feels very counterintuitive to think that we have a 10-second attention span and to use even that principle. So what makes you believe in this, and what makes you justify this statement to anyone?
First thing, I don't have to justify a fact, number one, right? If the audience, if the users have an attention span of 8 seconds, for example, right, then that's the truth we are living in, right? I can't create something else, a different parallel reality ki matlab ye fact hai, but I think it's 20 seconds, or because whatever marketing you do, whatever content you create, you're creating it for the audience. You're not creating to please your boss. That's a very different category jahan pe 10 crore rupees udte hain, right? If you're creating content for your audience, आपके audience की reality क्या है? Reality ये है, इनका attention span कम है, right? Now the question about long form content, we binge watch, I binge watch. The thing is, we need to realize that there are two kinds of platforms. There are destination platforms where you go and you spend time. So they're destination platform, and then there are hangout platforms. Like for example, you go to YouTube, you go to Netflix, right? You go there and then you watch half an hour, 1 hour, 10 hours at a stretch. But nobody goes to Instagram. Nobody goes to Facebook. Nobody goes on Twitter. Why? Because we live on Instagram. We live on Facebook. We live on Twitter. How many times in a day do you check YouTube or Netflix? And how many times in a day you check, your Insta, you check your Facebook or Twitter or whatever, right? Because the hangout is like going to a movie hall and going to a coffee shop, right? You go to a movie hall, it's like an event. I'll have dinner tonight, aaj raat binge watching, Saturday night, whatever, right? So it's an event, right? And it doesn't happen like all day long, because you're going, it's like, destination is like you're going to a movie hall. Now at a coffee shop, it's like, you're having conversations, it's a social place, and videos are playing, so it's even more powerful. That's why short attention span, I'm not saying there's no space for longer content. Definitely there is a space for long form content, but we get more bang for the buck, more ROI in short form content, because जनता का user behavior ऐसा है. If after 5 years everybody stops using Facebook, everybody stops watching Netflix, and the only thing people watch is roadways की buses, from roadways की buses पे content बना रहे होंगे. If Facebook dies, Netflix remains, we will focus on Netflix, because we will create wherever our audience is. हमारी अगर audience is spending a lot of time on social platforms, that's where we want to be relevant, right? For example, आप Netflix पे binge watching करके YouTube पे content देखते हो, एक देखते हो ना, social पे आप साला दिन में 50 वीडियोस देख लेते हो, right? So which offers a better bang for the buck for ROI? Right? The space is there, of course. Why not? I mean, podcasts have started over the last couple of months because of, everybody was home last year. I mean, even this year, but lockdown ke baad. So, I mean, when user behavior starts changing, you adapt to the users, because eventually you're making and creating for them, not to please your boss and then their CEO, then the investor. So if your purpose is sorted about, who are we making this for, then attention span is a fact. It's like you can't fight with the fact.
This is precisely where I have a question. You talked about, you're not making video about to please your boss or company, but and in fact, I and Sahil were kind of having a light discussion wherein we were discussing our favorite viral videos, and Sahil recalled a video, but he was unable to recall which company had made it, and then thereafter he rechecked and found out it was one of your videos actually.
See, here's the thing. We have grown with this programming of watching a lot of ads as kids, right? So when we create, I mean, content and ads are like oil and water, right? They are two sides of a coin. They're not the same. But जब हमारा कोई video चलता है, we start measuring it with the same parameters as ads, because content to me is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Right? एक वीडियो से कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. Idea is to, can we consistently be part of the lives of the users? Can we be relevant in their news feeds again and again and again and again? And that will happen when your video is worthy of sharing, keeps going viral again and again consistently. Right? Because if I created, videos with my team and we had one video which went viral, 2, 3, I can't write a book about it. Who the fuck am I to एक video viral हुआ उसमें किताब लिख दी, right? Right? जब तक वो consistent नहीं है, like I was hunting for validation. For example, I was, like working with the process in my mind all the time. What's that equation? What's that process? What's that method to the madness behind creating content? Because results हमारे हाथ में नहीं है, right? But process तो हमारे हाथ में है, right? Gold medal हमारे हाथ में नहीं है, पर lap timing तो हमारे हाथ में है, right? Blockbuster movie हमारे हाथ में नहीं है, पर सारी story तो हमारे हाथ में है. So can we actually focus on stuff which is in our control? And that performance, that process to me is the holy process, right? So एक वीडियो से मतलब हमें छक्का नहीं मारना है, और छक्का मारने का pressure is the worst. Because एक वीडियो में, can you imagine if your boss, तुमने इतना effort किया और करके, like the pressure of hitting a 6 on every ball is something which kills creativity and the fun of, Mondays. Idea is to win the match, right? दो run, 4-6-2, मतलब you have to keep going. Progress is what we want, right? Of course, एक वीडियो से कुछ नहीं होता है, right? But when we keep consistently creating it, right, that's when we create a space in the mind of the users, and that's what we want to do.
Okay. Okay. Well, first of all, the fun of Mondays, you are definitely having a blast at Exigo. Right?
Well, अब तो पिछले 6 महीने से every day is a Sunday.
But now you talk about process, right? And you talk about consistency, where we think about, at least for the past 2-3 years, when I see that the life of a video of any content has reduced drastically, right? It isn't as ageless as videos or as previously used.
Could you repeat that? Sorry.
So the life of viral content or the videos that we create today has reduced drastically.
Yeah.
Previously, the ads, the videos that we used to see were pretty timeless. They would last for years, maybe, if not more.
Yeah.
So how frequently do you create these videos to remain relevant? Do you have like a set procedure for that? Do you have a set number for that? This is the
See, we don't change. Like, a lot of people ask me, a lot of my friends on LinkedIn or social as well, that how often do we post? Do I post every day? Do I post once a week? And the only answer I have is post when you have something to say. Don't post कि भाई 6 बज गए मंडे को एक पोस्ट करना था लिंक्डइन पे, और तभी लिंक्डइन पे ऐसे पोस्ट आते हैं, I was going out, it started raining, I had an umbrella, everybody should keep an umbrella, everybody like, great sir, great, what an insight, we should keep umbrella. 10,000 likes है उस पे. I'm like, यार ऐसी engagement है कि तुम्हें अचार डालना है. So you post when you have something to post. You create when you have something meaningful to create, because the content ka density has increased on news feeds. We need to figure out plans to keep creating consistently. Now, for example, if you see in the book, there are 5 categories of how to pick share-worthy topics, right? Just IUCTC, right? Inspirational, content, useful, celebrating their life, topical, and change the world. The 5 categories. Now, topical content is something which is about breaking trend, breaking news, and you align your brand DNA with it. 26 January, 15 August, and say whatever, US elections, anything which becomes a breaking trend. Now, the shelf life of such content is a day. For example, when we create content for April Fool's Day, on April 2nd, we'd look like idiots. Right? Because uska relevance khatam ho gaya, right? At least 26 January ka video ka relevance 15 August pe hai, to wohi chipka sakte hain dobara. But, the topical videos ka wo, but again, when it comes to other videos, unka shelf life is way long. But of course, when we release it, and we've done this experiment many times in the past, when we release it, the shelf life is about a week, 10 days max, right? And that keeps decreasing because a lot of people are creating content and the newsfeed is very competitive. But we can repost that content as well after, 3 months. So when you have a content which has the validation that this worked, right? So the next time also it'll work. So it's like, slowly and slowly you start creating a library like Netflix for your brand, because every company today is a media company, along with being a product company or a tech company, because you have audiences, you have fans on social, and you need to keep feeding that dinosaur, right? So the more content you create, the shelf life is a week, 10 days, but again, you can repost in a couple of months and, get 4 times the ROI, the engagement, because कि जब वो अंधेरी रात होगी, जब आइडिया नहीं आ रहे होंगे, तो ये चीज चलेगी ना, because पहले चल चुकी है. जनता को याद नहीं है, हमें याद है ना, जनता को तो नहीं याद ना. So,
you said that there's and you rightly said that there's मतलब density बहुत ज़्यादा है content का, but when you look at good quality content, the ones that go viral are very, very less. If you see the proportion, right? There is no dearth of good story writers, high value production houses काफी सारे हैं इंडिया में. But why is the reason of this lackluster?
Because people are obsessed with production value and not storytelling. Filmmakers have orgasms about say भाई शॉट क्या है, भाड़ में गया तुम्हारा शॉट. ये जनता के लिए मोबाइल फ्रेंडली है कि नहीं, ये पहले 3 सेकंड में जनता को इंगेज करता है कि नहीं, इससे कोई कॉन्वर्सेशन स्टार्ट होती है कि नहीं होती है, राइट? इज इट वर्दी ऑफ शेयरिंग और एंगेजमेंट और नॉट? सर शॉट देखो, कलर्स इतने अच्छे हैं, मैं अचार डालूं कलर्स का. I want engagement at the end of the day. आपका वीडियो, आपका नैरेटिव, आपकी स्टोरी टेलिंग, did it create an impact in the life of the audience or not? अगर आप खुश हो गए, आपके बॉस खुश हो गए, बहुत बढ़िया, क्या ग्रेट, लोगो आपने बड़ा कर दी, भाड़ में गया तुम्हारा लोगो, राइट? बिकॉज दैट कम्स ओनली आफ्टर ऑडियंस इज एंगेज्ड. अगर जब आपकी जनता इंगेज नहीं है आपके कंटेंट के साथ, तो अब लोगो वीडियो से भी बड़ा कर दो, कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा उसका. जब तक इंगेजमेंट नहीं होगी, नथिंग ऑफ योर ब्रांड मेक्स सेंस, नथिंग ऑफ योर ब्रांड विल मेक अ डेंट इन द लाइफ ऑफ द ऑडियंस. यू सी मेनी वीडियोस, उसके 4 मिलियन व्यूज है, उसमें 2 शेयर है. कैन यू इमेजिन? पैसे खर्च के व्यूज तो आ गए बिकॉज फेसबुक ने सब, इंस्टाग्राम ने सबको दिखा दिया वीडियो, बिकॉज कंपनी ने 4 पैसे खर्चे से कपल ऑफ लाख रुपीस, 4 मिलियन व्यूज, बिकॉज फेसबुक ने, इंस्टा ने सबको दिखा दिया. बट नोबडी गिव अ शिट अबाउट इट. उस पर एंगेजमेंट आई 2 शेयर की. सो आपका ब्रांड, आपकी इंटीग्रेशन, आपका रेवेन्यू सब गया भाड़ में, राइट? सो storytelling comes before production value. You say, why a lot of content, only a small percentage of videos goes viral? Because see, when Amazon came up with Kindle self-publishing, everybody thought, great, self-publishing, everybody will become a writer. Kitni kitabein hain self-publishing mode mein which became bestsellers, right? A small percentage, right? Because it's quantity, because it's easy to publish. When YouTube was launched, a lot of ad filmmakers, ad agencies had orgasms कि हम 10-10 मिनट के ad डालेंगे YouTube पे, as if हम wait कर रहे हैं देखने के लिए, right? So when storytelling is given the first priority, that means that audience का obsession, audience का focus is given the first priority. आप एक बात बताओ, प्रोडक्शन वैल्यू कंटेंट की भाड़ में गई. आप बताओ, बॉम्बे में सारा एवरीबडी इज क्रिएटिंग मूवीज, हर मूवी सुपरहिट क्यों नहीं होती है? Right? Production value, they brought it from Hollywood. Story likhi nahi. Right? Story pe they never, because story is what people connect with. Like, you tell me how many movies you've seen in the past made on DSLRs but went on great internationally as well. Remember Monsoon Wedding? Shot on a DSLR. Right? And then it became a thing, oh, DSLR filmmaking. Arey yaar, baat storytelling ki hai. Production value ki nahi hai. India has immense talent when it comes to skills, immense talent when it comes to production, right? All we need to focus is the right direction. Will it create an impact in the life of our audience or not? Because if not, then janta bhag jayegi, because marketing today is all about fucking yelling at your audience. Every brand, the lowest hanging fruit is इसमें पैसा लगा दो, जनता को दिखाता रहो, निर्मा भाड़ में गया तुम्हारे. You got Pepsi and Coke, they started this whole thing of recall का time गया. It's about relevance. Recall is about eyeballs, purely about eyeballs. This is about heart. आप आंख से देके शेयर नहीं करते हो. It has to create an impact in your life. You have to be moved a little, compelled, and that's a tall order. और जो वहां तक नहीं पहुंचना चाहते, यार कितना काम कौन करेगा? 2 लाख रुपए लगाते हैं, इस पे लगा दो फिर, राइट? फिर मैंने तुम्हें 10 नंबर का आंसर दिया 2 नंबर के क्वेश्चन के लिए.
सर, बट आपने लो हैंगिंग फ्रूट की बात की, but this is when it comes to longer format, this is what the audience eats, right? Because art films नहीं तो मतलब they don't.
Longer format में कितने सारे shows हैं जो हमने अभी binge watch करे in the last couple of months, मैंने भी देखे, right? Why did you watch? क्योंकि इसमें special effect बहुत अच्छे थे. Why did you watch? Because sound was amazing, man. You watched because you were hooked to the story. Have you seen Netflix का template क्या है? Right? Just Google Netflix का series का template and you will see how, they have a template about, I mean, of course they keep improving the template. ऐसा कोई template नहीं है. It's like the observation of, binge watching a lot of shows, how they keep you hooked, right? You only watch because of the narrative, of the story, how much it pulls you in. So ऐसा नहीं कि long form और short form में वो different है. It's not about the format, it's about the audience. As marketers, as content creators, हमारे पास ना बथेरे format है. Short form, long form, bumper ad, choti ad, badi ad, rectangle video, square video, story video. You know what the audience sees? Just 2 things. Is it bullshit or is it, not bullshit? The reaction of audience is very binary, 0 or 1. ये bullshit है कि नहीं है? कहानी खत्म. Bullshit है तो कितने Netflix के shows, कितने Prime के shows हमने शुरू किए और 5 मिनट में बंद कर दिए. मैं रोज करता हूं ऐसे shows बंद, right? So if it's in the bullshit free space, that's when you start watching for short form or long form. And being in that space comes from obsessing about users, because आपकी production value बहुत sorted है, skills and talent बहुत है, and it's cheaper to produce high quality content these days, right? Relatively compared to the past. But storytelling, building the narrative, that's what makes or breaks content today. Not how fancy your shot is, right?
So one thing that you have constantly talked about, Ashish, is creating share-worthy content, right? Content that engages and keeping the user in making user the center of your attention, right? Which makes sense. It comes off as very commonsensical to someone who hasn't at least entered the world so far of corporate content marketing or content making. Um, but this idea of creating share-worthy content, is it? I mean, can I take your book and will it still be relevant 20 years later? Can I
So
can I take can I take your book? Can I use the formulas that you have taken, that you have given, and will it still be relevant 20 years later? Okay. Is it
because the process is not about tools and technology, tips and tricks, platforms which come and go. It's about users. It's about giving a shit about users, their experience. And when you give a shit about their experience, the book will be relevant because we'll keep building on that. और if book talks about social content और आज से 10 साल बाद कुछ हुआ, सबने social phone अपने फेंक दिए, but user behavior जो है, right, attention span, the way we consume content, the way we share content or share stories, that remains, right? So I know, like, it sounds common sense on the surface, that's why it's missed. क्या ये तो common sense है, right? कुछ और करते हैं.
No, so one thing that also you have talked about, and rightly so, is that this book is a result of a lot of experimentation, right? And I guess it's great that Ixigo gives you that breathing space to experiment so much. Now, COVID changed the dynamics of the work, right? And I'm sure that your work would have been impacted by that as well. Anything new that you tried after launching the book, because your book came pre-COVID? So anything new that you learned, anything different that came out that you'd like to add on, and you would like your readers to know after the book launch?
To be honest, it took me 3 years to get the book down because it was because every segment, every chapter had to be validated, for the bullshit radar. कि ये ज्ञान नहीं बटना चाहिए, ये ब्रेन, उसके लिए लिंक्डइन पे कीर्तन होता है. They should not be, it should not be, brain farts about क्या होना चाहिए लाइफ में, मार्केटिंग में. It should be driven truly from experience. So after the book was published, the only, see, my only race, my only journey is to keep validating. It keeps coming back to validating. When COVID happens, lockdowns happen, right? Suddenly, work from home became a norm. And for content, creativity, marketing, or producing videos, that was a very collaborative exercise, right? And suddenly, what we used to talk about, it's in the book as well, that storytelling comes before production value. Production value is zero, na? So can you imagine that, production value completely went to a halt because you could not go out to shoot. You got not you can't even say guerrilla marketing करेंगे. Guerrilla marketing भी नहीं हो सकती because you're not stepping out. And in that time, we had videos which went viral back to back. Right? We had videos which went viral in March, in April, in May, in June, and August. Right? Because we figured out more, because creativity shines in the times of scarcity. Right? Like when you don't have resources, why do you think, like I love Ixigo because Ixigo is a startup. Right? Startup is not the size of the funding or size of the team. It's about the mindset, about, competing with the biggies on the lowest of resources. जब आपके पास resources नहीं है, and if you're working in a big company, budget तो है नहीं. And when you work in a startup, भाई budget तो है नहीं, let's figure it out. Right? And that's the game, which was very exciting. So there's nothing which, I will add to the book. I'll just add a lot of more examples which happened after the book came out. Because, a lot of the videos which came after the book had the same principles. ऐसा नहीं है कि उसके बाद, the principles were new, because एक principles, एक process को nail down करने के लिए took a long time. Because book लिखना was a month, 2 months max. But validate करना कि ये, bullshit तो नहीं है. इसके पीछे evidence क्या है? My true experience क्या है? Right? Because bullshitting is easy, but getting, results or learnings which are truly driven from insights, true experiences. Like I remember a couple of years back, somebody asked me, how do we create LinkedIn content? I'm like, mujhe nahi pata at that time, right? At that time, LinkedIn was fairly new, coming up in videos. I'm like, jab tak it's not part of my true experience, I can't bullshit my way, right? And then, of course, I did a lot of experiments on my own on LinkedIn, blah blah blah. And like now I can talk about certain things, but I can't talk about the whole thing. I'm not an expert in marketing on the whole, right? If you ask me outdoor marketing, I'll just talk from the perspective of content. I'll just talk from the perspective of users, how they engage with your content, right? But I'll not give you the dimensions of a hoarding or this and that, because matlab, you have one life to live, man.
So there is this, content maker side of you, and there is this, corporate side of you. You are an employee of a company. Is there ever a conflict in your mind कि ये controversial topic को छूना है या नहीं? Because कि people will relate to this, but this might backfire.
See, controversial ki we burnt our hands. We had learnings back in the day, right? And burnt our hands ऐसा नहीं है कि मतलब आग लग गई nationally, मतलब ऐसा कुछ नहीं हुआ. एक negative comment आया, right? 2-3 बार ऐसा आया कोई negative comment. And that's when I realized that controversial topics are expensive to deal with, period. Getting into a controversial space just for the sake of branding, ki any marketing is good marketing, any branding is, that's bullshit. Because like I feel that it's expensive to deal with in terms of time and resources. अगर आपने कुछ controversial कर लिया और उस पे लड़ाई हो गई ट्विटर पे, blah 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 हो गया, मतलब you have to spend a lot of time and energy and resources to put out that fire. So उसके बाद it was a conscious call to stay in the positive category, because positive space में इतना कुछ हो नहीं रहा जितना लगता है कि हमारा सारा content positive है. Creating share worthy content and creating something which is truly positive, right? Like that's why I ditched the idea of latching onto controversies, because हमें जबरदस्ती जनता के सामने नहीं रहना. We have to truly create an impact in their lives in a meaningful way, right? This is not cold blooded कि कुछ भी करो यार जनता को नजर आए. तो अगर तुम्हारा बॉस ऐसा कहता है ना, fire boss.
But does that mean कि as an independent content maker, you would take the liberty to touch upon these controversial topics?
यार इंडिपेंडेंट फिल्म मेकर हो, क्रिएटर हो या ब्रांड हो, राइट? कंट्रोवर्सी अगर होगी तो यू हैव टू डील विद इट. इफ यू प्रिपेयर टू डील विद इट, ग्रेट. इफ पर्सनली यू प्रिपेयर टू डील विद इट, मैं इस पे पूरा वीकेंड लगाऊंगा, देखी जाएगी, सबको नेगेटिव कमेंट्स को आंसर करूंगा. करो बैठ के, डजंट मैटर, राइट? जाके गवर्नमेंट को गाली दे दो, राइट? फॉर एग्जाम्पल, राइट? So if it's personal or a brand, it's like you have limited time, right? So where do you, because at the end of the day, like if you want to get into that. But to be honest, it's not about controversy, it's about causes where if your brand can take a stand on something, right, then it's great, because you have to back it up. You prepare to take a stand as a brand or even as an individual. But if you're doing it just for the sake of controversy कि आग में थोड़ा और पेट्रोल डालते हैं, तो मतलब deal with it, आग तुम्हें भी लग सकती है.
So I have another
kind of a conversation, didn't you? तुम्हें लगता है मैं किताब पढ़ूंगा पूरे 2 घंटे?
No. So the good thing about this is, Aashish, that even the past 4 interviews that we have had. See, while we don't know, and I guess we need to have a discussion, Sauradeep and I, about keeping the viewers in focus. But both of us have met quite unique personalities, which with whom we have loved to speak with, right?
Amazing,
Just
man.
from MDI, and both of them are so different in the way they talk and the way they explain concepts that it becomes very intriguing for us just to have the conversation, let alone the knowledge that we get out of it.
Right.
And then this does cause for a very nice. And I was just about to make this comment that in your book, in the very beginning, you talk about how ideas don't have as much value and execution is everything, right? And for anyone who questions the conviction that this man Aashish Chopra has, Sauradeep has just seen it.
I'm pointing at the poster behind Aashish.
Oh yes, I designed it.
Exactly. His eyes lit up like.
Yeah.
I guess this is what we seek, and this is what gives us a lot of I guess peace of mind as well. That we speak people who have conviction in what they talk about, and
Awesome.
and that values that matters a lot. That means a lot to me and to him as well.
And we have received lots of suggestion to keep these things short. So how we see at it is, yeah, we go by the flow, and we look it as records that would be seen by and watched by people, say 2 years, 3 years, decade down the line.
But also, when you ask questions, now, like you can take an hour and a half, say, video which goes on YouTube, but you can slice and dice the question and answers into mini 5-minute videos, right?
Right.
Because then, I mean, एक बार आपका conversation हो गया, right? Then you can keep packaging it. You can also package, say, 20 second for reels or for stories, right?
Sahil, you got your answer. You were going to ask you हमने कैसे viral बनाया हमने.
See, this is how you get free consultation, people from a renowned viral content marketer of the year.
Sure, good one. Free consultation. नहीं सही है, man. I mean, if you like, to be honest, one thing which I love what you guys are doing is you're actually taking the pains to create something which did not exist earlier in the world, right? So pat your backs because you're doing, you're creating, you're taking the effort to do that. But जब आपने वो बना लिया है पूरा खाना, तो उसको slice and dice करके, like make sure it goes, longer than just, एक खिचड़ी बन गई हमारी, अरे उसको 6 डब्बियों में डालो, पूरा हफ्ता खाओ, So slice and dice the Q and the A, because the question and answer can be made into short form content, and you have more the chances of that reaching a lot people is higher, because you're not placing your bets on one video, you're placing your bets on 10 out of one experience of an hour and a half video, right?
Not true. I guess that's a very good idea. Something that I don't know. This is some that I give to other people. I don't know why I never thought about it for our own videos. So sorry, for this video, we are definitely going to work on it, and let's do that. Let's do that.
Right. So, coming to the next question, Aashish, it came out, from your book that you are an advocate of in-house team.
Absolutely.
Rather than outsourcing.
For someone who's starting from scratch, any young professional, how do we go on building about our in-house marketing team, content creating?
One thing to create an in-house team or any marketing, right? I believe first that everybody should be a creator first, manager next. We don't need managers. We don't need people who manage people from the back. We need leaders who lead from the front, who can create on their own, right? So everybody in the team is a creator. Like, for example, in my team, everybody can shoot, everybody can direct, everybody can do audio, everybody can edit it, everybody can post it, write headlines, measure the analytics, the entire shebang, 360 degree of marketing, of creating and publishing and measuring. Every person has to be, a one person Army, Air Force and Navy, because the per person efficiency has to be real high. And when we do create content, create videos in-house, then we have a lot of agility. And the beauty in that is we have the power to say no. अगर आपने एजेंसी को दिया, प्रोडक्शन को दिया, I'm not saying वो सही गलत है, like that's great, but I'm just saying for creativity to shine, हमने कुछ बनाया, in-house बनाया, ज़्यादा पैसे नहीं खर्चे, अच्छा नहीं बना, डिलीट कर दो, right? पर अगर इस पे पैसे ज़्यादा खर्च हो गए, right? तो फिर जवाब दो, right? So because the thing is, your growth hacks are hidden between 10 experiments, right? And those 10 experiments, the more fun you're having, the more focused you are in doing the right thing, right? Then, the magical 2 appear out of the 10 experiments. And of course, when you do in-house, there's more agility. The changes happen on the fly. The cost is low, and the beauty of low cost is that you can do more. अगर आपके पास सपोज 10 लाख का बजट है कुछ करने के लिए और आपने 8 लाख का वीडियो बना दिया, कंपेयर टू आपका 10 लाख का वीडियो, तो आपने 10 वीडियो बना दिए, so 10 में से the chances of 1 or 2 going crazy is higher than just one video. Placing all your bets, keeping all your eggs in one basket, because आपने 10 लाख रुपए खरीद दिए, because एकदम great उसका संजय लीला भंसाली वाला डायरेक्शन वाला वीडियो बना है. But अगर हमने, because people are consuming content on their mobile devices, on a tiny screen, you don't need fancy production value, right? The production value of a video is determined by the size of the screen. If you're watching, content or videos on TV screen or movie halls, you have to invest in that production quality because the screen is bigger, right? But जब आपकी जनता आपके phone पे देख रही है, and then, The production quality is determined by the size of the screen. छोटे से screen पे, you don't need a lot of tamjam. When you're watching, movie on a big screen, there's this photographer's term of rule of the third, that you keep your subject in one third, baki background, foreground. Makes sense. It's a big screen. As a user, I love it. But on a phone, I just apply the concept of, rule of the selfie. Everything is front and center like a selfie, right? Selfie is a phenomenon which is native to mobile screens, right? Selfie क्या है? That I'm standing on Mount Everest, to hell with the mountain. ये रही मेरी photo front and center, बीच में एकदम. तो जब सेल्फी के फोटो बीच में है, तो कंटेंट भी बीच में होना चाहिए ना, because people are consuming on their phones, on their tiny devices, and the content needs to be tailored for a tiny screen, period.
So this means, when you are building an in-house team, you would rather not have veterans who come with preconceived notions and thought packages, right? You'd rather have novices who like to look at the world in different way and can learn skills.
Anybody who joins the team first has to have, crazy curiosity about learning new things, because the game keeps changing really fast, right? The game keeps changing really fast. So the more experiments, the more excited you are to do experiments, right? The better it is, to be part of the team, right? Because अगर आपने कुछ सीखा और उसी को बार बार repeat करते रहे, then that's the beginning of the end, right? So like crazy curiosity is the first thing, which is, and of course everybody has to be creator as well, like only if you create, the nuances of the whole process of creation, right? And when you're curious about learning new things, because वो चीज ऐसी है जो आपको खुद ही apply करनी पड़ती है, right? Nobody can force you to learn anything at all, right? A boss can say ये किताब पढ़ के परसों टेस्ट होगा, वो टेस्ट वैसा नहीं होगा जैसा आपको लग रहा है, बिकॉज आपने प्रेशर से उसको बोला किताब पढ़नी है, टेस्ट होना है. फिर उसने क्यूरोसिटी से नहीं पढ़ा, उसने पढ़ा क्योंकि टेस्ट है, right? So that people who have the natural bent of mind to learn new things, right? And that comes from this, hunger of becoming a better version of you compared to yesterday. That is the core DNA, because skills तो आप सीख सकते हो, right? Skills तो आ जाएंगी, right? But that whole, purpose and passion, वो आप सीख नहीं सकते. That drive, that is not something which you can find in books. That has to come from, within you. So it's more like a little bit of self introspection. I'm not saying कि people who don't have a drive, अगर आपके पास drive नहीं है, passion नहीं है, right? For example, a lot of people, in colleges, I was one of them, कि क्या करना है पता नहीं है, right? So in that case, the perfect thing is start building the skills. Like खड़े मत रहो कि जब तक वॉल्वो की बस नहीं आएगी हम जाएंगे नहीं. रोडवेज की बस पकड़ो और रास्ते में से वॉल्वो पकड़ लेना, बट स्टार्ट द एक्शन. उस रास्ते में भागना शुरू करो, रास्ते तब मिलेंगे, बैठे बैठे अपने आप रास्ते नहीं प्रकट होंगे ऊपर से. When you keep running on that path, you'll keep finding the ways, right? So keep building the skills and you will find your passion, because when you're building the skills, you will know which are the stuff which you're drawn to naturally. You may be drawn to writing naturally, you may be drawn to, voice or recording naturally. So follow whatever comes naturally to you. Don't become something because like become like compare with others कि मतलब अरे वो वीडियो बना रहा है मुझे भी बनाना है, right? So मतलब वो वीडियो बना रहा, but you can win a Booker Prize, no?
Yeah. So Sahil and I were having the discussion on this. Perhaps Sahil forgot. We were discussing this concept, and this is a term we coined during our discussion: deferred virality, and this is relatively a new phenomenon. Oh Beta Ji is a song that perhaps very few people knew back then. Now it's a super hit.
Yeah.
After a couple of decades, 5 decades, something. Hera Fairy, early 2000 ka movie hai, but right now you can't scroll your screen without coming across a screenshot. So what is the reason that people back then could not relate to it as much as the current generation is?
See, that's a great point about deferred virality. And, the thing is that, like, for example, I grew up listening to A.R. Rahman, right? Now, A.R. Rahman, when he won the Oscar, right, for Jai Ho, the song, I was like, Jai Ho is not his best song. If you've grown up listening to A.R. Rahman, I'm like, Jai Ho pe Oscar mila hai. But there were a great number of songs, a library of songs, which A.R. Rahman worked on. But the thing is, if you noticed, every song, every piece of music he worked on was kick-ass. Because you don't know which ones of your content, which one of your creation, which one of your videos will go hit, will go big, catch, fancy of the entire world. You don't know that. So the obsession has to be there to make sure everything which, you ship has to be kick-ass. And that's where the obsession comes in. Now, for example, we made a video a couple of years back about, like I spoke to a friends of mine that, होटल में लोग जो जाते हैं उनका पेन पॉइंट क्या होता है. It's not about booking a hotel, cheap price. I'm like, वो फ्रस्ट्रेशन किससे होती है होटल में? छोटी सी छोटी चीज से फ्रस्ट्रेशन हो, राइट? एंड वी रियलाइज इन अ ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग दैट होटल रूम में हमें ये नहीं पता होता कौन सा सामान हम घर ले जा सकते हैं, कौन सा नहीं ले जा सकते. Simple as that, right? And Friends में there was this episode where Ross and Chandler are also working. So we had this frame of mind that this is a very interesting space because इसका solution नहीं है हमारे पास. So we spoke to a lot of hotel management friends we had, and we made an exhaustive list. हमने वो वीडियो 7,000 रुपए में बनाया, 7,000 rupees. वीडियो बनाया, रिलीज किया, ग्रेट, 2 million views, वेरी गुड, चाय समोसा पार्टी. अब 1 साल के बाद there was a family in Bali who were caught stealing from a hotel, and that video became a national shame, right? It became viral globally, and we had this video which was ready as an answer to that. We had a video which was ready to save the day, right? So on a Sunday, I remember we were in different places. Koi Gurgaon mein, koi Jaipur mein. I was in Dehradun catching a flight. Within 4 hours, we repurposed that video. We tagged it Jan Hit Mein Jari, and we released it. And you know what happened? That video went crazy on day 1. On day 2, it showed up on ZTV. A video made for 7,000 rupees for a mobile screen, digital content on ZTV. I'm like, shit, ZTV. On day 3, it showed up on a US TV show with Whoopi Goldberg, the Oscar winner, talking about that video. Right? So, virality, aaj ho, kal ho, doesn't matter. But if it's truly made in the interest of the audience, so wo aaj nahi to eventually chalega. Because if you create great content, right? And you're like, ye acha content hai, I've, all the check boxes are checked. It may not work instantly. It's fine. But it will work eventually. Because आपने उसको सही intention से बनाया है, right? User, like you care for the lives of the users, and the intention of that video is truly to create an impact, to be on the side of the audience, right? So if not instantly, it will work eventually.
This video, as you were talking about, it is playing in my head. I remember that video, and I remember saving it. कि कभी किसी होटल जाऊंगा, this is so going to come in handy for me. कि I know now कि ये लेना है कि नहीं लेना.
हाँ, and we had to check it because अगर हम check नहीं करते तो Twitter पे आग लग जाती है, एक से को hi blah 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 झंडे आते बाहर. So we had to make sure कि भाई everything is vetted, right? So yeah, I mean, it's part of the same process, no? I mean, that's why, I love the team, I love the company, I love the culture, because when we go in the direction where nobody is gone, we find magical stuff, right?
Definitely.
It looks so simple on the surface. Because everybody you talk to me about that, ये हमने क्यों नहीं सोचा? हमने सोच लो ना. Because, when I talk to a lot of, companies, agencies, they think हमारे पास एक idea. I'm like, हमारे पास 50,000 ideas, because we follow a process. We don't believe that only few people are gifted to be creative. Everybody is born creative. Are you nurturing it or not? If you keep telling yourself that I'm not creative, let me focus on this type side of the business or analytics or this and that. Everybody is creative because you are born to spot the patterns and create the connections. But for example, अगर आपके दिमाग में dots ही नहीं होंगे तो आप connect क्या करोगे? आपनी creativity nurture कैसे करोगे? For example, if you've never heard classical music in your life, how can you ever imagine fusion music? आप कैसे imagine करोगे? आपने तबला कभी सुना ही नहीं है, आप तबला और drums का fusion कैसे imagine करोगे? You can only imagine when you have more experiences to connect the dots. So if you don't nurture your creativity and live with this belief that, oh, I'm not creative, only this person is creative, then you'll be completely dependent on whatever he comes up with, and you will just be executing it.
That makes sense, and again, congratulations to you, Aashish. 1, on the success of your work, and 2, on the success of the videos that you have made.
Thanks, man. It's a work in progress all the time.
It is, and before we close, every interview ends with a small section with what the author reads. So, of course, first you would tell us what books have inspired you. What do you like reading? And 2, because we are talking about content, which is your favorite brand content? Which brands do you
तो
absolutely
दूसरे क्वेश्चन का तो मैं आंसर देने नहीं वाला. So
love?
no, I'll tell you why. Because I like it's a very weird thing because I purposefully don't watch a lot of content from other brands. Not because कि, oh, I'm too good. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. It's just about like you don't want to get biased. Because the thing is, when we were growing up, right, we used to watch a lot of ads on TV, right? So we used to watch a lot of documentaries on Discovery. That whole thing, the way we the programming we had in our head, that starts showing up in the work you're doing all the time, right? And that is something which it's very important to protect. That your inspirations should not be biased. I'm not saying कि जनता कहेगी तुमने कॉपी किया है जो मर्जी बोलो कॉपी किया. It's inspiration is not copied. Like you can create something new of something which existed. That's also creativity, right? But so yeah, I can't be honest about that and say ye brand wo brand. But a lot of the brands right now are creating a lot of great content. I love to be in the space. Like 2 saal pehle, not a lot of companies, not a lot of brands or startups were focusing on content or videos and this new fancy word, moment marketing, which is nothing but topical content. कोई टॉपिक हो रहा है उसपे कंटेंट बना दो, एक नया वर्ड बना दो. शिट मैन, न्यूज जैकिंग, मोमेंट मार्केटिंग. वी क्रिएट दीज वर्ड्स एज मार्केटर्स टू गेट पेड मोर एवरी ईयर. और कुछ नहीं है. ये तुमने भी डेफर्ड वायरलिटी बना लिया ना वर्ड, ये अपने लिंक्डइन प्रोफाइल में जाके डाल देना. राइट है तो कॉमन सेंस है ना. कुछ चीज तब चली अब नहीं चली. राइट. सो व्हाट वाज द क्वेश्चन? सॉरी.
No, I mean,
Yes. Now the first part, what are the books I read, right? So I had this amazing experience about a book, and I think it's mentioned in the last chapter as well. So I was on a flight with this gentleman coming from Bangalore, and he suggested the book, and I just bought the book on Amazon. Next day it arrived. There was a red book which was sitting on my desk, and I don't read like my wife reads. She's beginning and kitab khatam. I'm like scanning idhar udhar. It's like chaotic life. ये पढ़ा वो फेंक दिया, वहाँ paper plane बन गया. मतलब it's a एक doodle होके रह गया. Or I can claim that like when I met my wife for the first time, the first date, my friend told me that she likes to read a lot. I'm like done. So मैंने किताब का synopsis रट्टा मारा and I pretended to talk about it for the entire date. She was impressed. Next day we had a call. She like, have you read this book? मैंने Google किया, synopsis पढ़ा, and I had an intelligent conversation with her about that book, which I'd never read. So that's how I read. Like, like it's a very zigzag, it's very chaotic, it's very, like take and go. But this book, this red book, which, kept sitting on my desk, I just took it home that day and I just read it in, 2 hours. And uske baad I woke my wife. I'm like, you have to read this. And she like, whatever, I'll talk in the morning. And I just put it on LinkedIn that whoever wants this book, I will ship the book for free, right? Just send in your address. By morning, I had 275 addresses. It took me a week, 2 weeks to actually, order the books from a local bookstore, put a note in every book, package it myself, and ship it, right? And this was the book. It was called Go Giver. I love this book, right? I think वो mirror में उल्टा आ रहा है. It's called Go Giver. It's a red book. But the thing is, the book is not about business skills or this and that. It's about something very basic, which that fundamental, at underlying fundamental, which creates an impact in all spheres. It's so it's not a self-help book, right? It's self-help books are not bad. I'm not dissing them. I love self-help books, but I won't call them self-help books. वो फिर they go in the category of कि अच्छा इसको जरूरत है medicine की. ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता है. It's more self-development, right? So
also apart from content marketing lessons, people, this was relationship 101 for the sapiosexuals who's trying to interest someone who reads a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Google पे जाओ, synopsis पढ़ो और उसके बाद पास सिर्फ 2 मिनट है. उसके बाद तुम आंसर नहीं कर सकते क्वेश्चन, बिकॉज उसके बाद पॉइंटेड क्वेश्चन आते हैं. व्हाट डिड यू थिंक अबाउट दिस चैप्टर 2? फिर आपको पॉइंटेड सर्च करनी पड़ती है. मैंने वो भी किया, मैंने सब कुछ किया. डोंट वरी अबाउट इट.
Great. Thank you so much, Aashish. It has
Awesome.
been a great last 1.5 hours, with you. I mean, really, I guess there were some very tube-like moments for me. Talking about the Hangout platforms and the go-to platforms, and the way you approach both of them was one highlight for me, and a lot of other lessons that I got from it. Right, might use them or not, but definitely useful time spent here. Thank you so
Awesome,
much.
man. Had a great time here, man. I think we had a great conversation. I mean, pata nahi laga, it's been 1.5 hours, right? We were just laughing all the way. So that was amazing. और सारी गालियों को beep out कर देना. I'm just saying. कुछ लोग बहुत परेशान होने वाले हैं इन बातों से, right?
अरे controversy से तो views आते हैं आशीष.
हाँ, I'm just
रोडीज ही चल रहा है ऐसे.
No,
We-
sir. Spoken like a true YouTuber. जब तक गाली नहीं होगी सर, कंटेंट में दम कैसे आएगा?
This will be our pivot. Guys. We are going to escalate now.
No, but on a serious note, I completely echo what Sahil said, and I would remember this conversation for times to come.
I'm so glad we recorded a video for this. No.
Right.
Definitely.
So thank you so much, Aashish. It really means a lot. Thank you for your time. And with this, viewers, we'll kind of end this video over here. Thank
Wish
you.
you
Thank you so much.
success for your subsequent endeavors, and looking forward to actually more books from you. Please keep
Sure. You have to look forward. I have to work on that.
3 साल बाद चलेगा पड़ेगा.
Done. Let me get started. It was great catching up with you guys, man. I think we had a great time today, midweek. So
Right,
all the
right.
best on the project. Keep the banyan tree hara bhara.
Sure,
All
we'll
right,
try
guys.
our best.
See you.
Thank you so much, Aashish.
Bye.
Bye.